Change begins from within. As easy as it is to look outside of ourselves and want the world to change, the truth is, it never will if we remain the same. This podcast was created for changemakers like you who want more love and connection in your community. Today, you are going to hear stories that will inspire you and also challenge you to be the change. We are going to go deep, my friend. So take a deep breath and settle in. My name is Emilia Tamburini. Welcome to the Circle of Change. Welcome to the end of September, my friend. It is officially crunchy leaf season in Canada. My favorite. It's not just the natural beauty that is all around. It's also the symbolism of harvesting and the visual, visceral journey of having things that no longer serve me or serve humanity fall away. That's why today we are delving into an emotion so that we can experience it through a more freeing and empowering lens and let the unhelpful feels we have about this emotion fall away. I'm doing this because in general, we are so terrified and unknowledgeable about emotions. This is why Brené Brown has published a whole atlas about them. For me personally, learning about my emotions, what they are, why they're here, literally changed my life and brought in so much more peace and connection and meaning. So here on this show that is supporting you to grow your inner awareness so you can be the change maker that you are, we're going to dedicate the odd solo episode to exploring an emotion so that you can use these babies as a guiding star. It's amazing how much more exciting emotions become when we can figure out what they are trying to tell us. Today, we're going to unpack resentment. I can't wait. All right, let's settle in. So wherever you are in the world, in your life, I encourage you to just take a deep breath in and get really present with that breath. And if you want, focus your eyes in on something that is in front of you. And just take a moment to take in all the colors, the textures, the shapes, the size of whatever that is. And really bring all your focus there as you continue to breathe softly and come into this moment right here. Our poem today is by Danusha Laméris. She is a poet laureate of Santa Cruz County, California. This poem is called Small Kindnesses. I've been thinking about the way, when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by, or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly, we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of hot coffee and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back, for the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are all true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. Thanks, Danusha. Beautiful, beautiful reminder of how simple connection and humanity can be. I recently facilitated a professional development day with about 80 teachers and administrators and educational assistants in a high school. It was so cool for me to get to support these dedicated individuals who are making a difference in the lives of themselves and, of course, the youth that they get to influence and interact with. I mean, to me, that's a dream come true scenario for the work that I get up to in the world. When I reflected on this and the things that we got to delve into, I found myself so grateful for all the work that I have done in my life to get to know myself better, because it's that work that allows me to do the work that I do and to do it so effectively. Someone recently said to me, "You teach what you learn." And I think that is 100% true for me. Just like energy, I believe that our knowledge is meant to flow, not remain stagnant. It comes in, and then we absorb it, we grow from it, and then we give it back out to the world. And I'm grateful that I've created a life around that process. At the Pro-D Day, I spoke a bit about resentment, mainly the resentment I felt towards various people in my life growing up. So today I want to unpack this emotion so that we can all identify it when it happens and then use it as a superpower to uplift our lives and our relationships. This is the work of the change maker. We are in this process of getting to know ourselves, and we're stepping into that space with curiosity, with compassion, and with awe. Awe at the miraculousness of our bodies. So resentment, what is it? Well, let's start with the atlas, okay? Brené Brown says that resentment is a feeling of frustration, judgment, or anger, or better than, to me, that is superiority, or a hidden envy related to perceived unfairness or injustice. She says we often experience it when we fail to set boundaries or ask for what we need, or when expectations let us down because they were based on things we can't control, like what other people think, feel, or how they react. Another more simpler definition I found in one of my other favorite books that is called The Mountain Is You says that resentment is essentially when someone or something doesn't live up to the expectations we had of them in our minds. In that sentence, there's an implication that we have some attachment to a person being or behaving a certain way, or a certain outcome from manifesting. That book also dives into this concept that resentment is actually projected regret. Projected regret. So it's telling us about what other people should change versus telling us what we should change. This is brilliant because we do this all the time. But the thing is, my friend, that other people are under no obligation to live up to our ideas of them. It is us that has the obligation to live up to our own ideas of who we are. Often in these situations, our ideas of how people should be are unrealistic because we're asking people to be who they are not. So we're holding on to or attaching ourselves to this image of them that prevents us from truly learning about ourselves, which is the purpose of relationships. They are here to help us learn about others and ourselves. But that's generally not how we walk into relationships, is it? We tend to walk into relationships needing people to be certain things for us. But what if the way people showed up is simply the way people showed up? And if we have feelings about it, uncomfortable or cozy, that we simply got curious and asked, what am I learning about them or me in this situation? Like, what is this feeling here to tell me? So let me give you an example, and then I want to give you a series of questions to help you unpack this feeling and turn it into a superpower when it comes up for you. So I recently went to what I thought was going to be a mentorship meeting with a person that I admire greatly. I had an expectation that they were going to show up and ask me a bunch of questions about myself, and then we were going to strategize for how they could support me going forward. I didn't articulate any of that. I had assumed that we were on the same page coming into this conversation. So when I showed up fully prepared to share all about what I'm up to in the world, and the conversation took on a very different angle, I was unsettled. And yeah, I got off the call feeling resentful toward this person. So let me get clear on what happened. I showed up with an expectation of them being a certain way. I didn't communicate that to them. And when they didn't show up that way, I became resentful that my needs weren't being met. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, have you done this too, or am I the only one? So feeling this way and knowing enough to know that this had something to do with me, not them, allowed me to get curious. And what I learned in that place of curiosity is that I really had this need as I walked into that conversation to be seen and heard and to have somebody else carry the burden of my life and my business. And that's not what they showed up for, nor was it ever the desire for this call. But the experience helped me to see that this need of mine was present and I was placing it on this person. What was really fascinating when I pulled myself out of those fear-based feelings, I could see the magic that this conversation was. I mean, it was collaborative. It was a connection that I didn't think I could have with a person such as this. It was also this cool opportunity for me to see what my strengths were and how I have a unique skill that I'm not fully marketing or presenting. That was all present for me in this dialogue, but because I was so focused on how they were not showing up the way I needed them to, I missed most of that in the moment. So this is why becoming aware of what's going on for us and asking the questions that will reveal these hidden gems is so important. I mean, I am lit up about that conversation now and have started reframing my facilitation skills because of it. I'm actually getting what I needed out of that conversation, which was clarity on how to speak about what I do in the world. I went in thinking I wanted something else from it, but I got exactly what I needed. And that right there is what letting go of an attachment to an outcome can provide. If I stayed in resentment, I wouldn't have seen this. I'd still been stuck and also resistant to continuing this partnership, which would be an extremely silly thing to do. There's no distance between me and this person anymore. And that really, for me, is important. So let's unpack this for you. I'd love you to think of a situation in your life where maybe you're feeling some resentment. It could be a past conversation. It could be an ongoing issue in a relationship. Our first step here is awareness that we're actually having a feeling about it. And we could spend all year just on that, identifying when we're actually having a feeling, because we have a society that we have built up around us with 1,000,001 ways to distract us from becoming aware of how it is we're feeling. So we are in this process of unbecoming, of deconditioning, of learning new ways of being and really getting present in our bodies. So if you are able to do step one, which is, oh, I'm having a feeling, I mean, that's amazing. And you should celebrate. So if you are there and you're understanding that something is going on in your body, one thing that I like to do is really draw my attention to certain parts of my body. So certain energy centers, for example, the throat area, the chest area, and the solar plexus area, which is just like high stomach, high belly. This is often where these fear-based emotions reside. And generally, they don't feel that comfortable. They feel restrictive and painful and heavy versus light and expansive and energizing. So just notice in the moment, no judgment, don't make it mean anything. Step two is to ask yourself a question. What need am I asking this person or this situation to fulfill that I have no right to ask them to fulfill? What unspoken boundary has been crossed? So those are two questions that you may want to ask yourself, and perhaps you journal about this or go for a walk and let the ideas come to you. Whatever that thing is that allows you that space to really hear what is going on in your inner core. Sometimes it's when you get in the shower and have this download. These needs and boundaries, they're often big things like happiness, security, peace of mind, safety, self-care, or some core value. There is likely an unsaid and unrealistic expectation that you're placing on the other person to meet this need. The third question to ask yourself is, what am I learning about myself? Or what am I learning about this person? This is the transition for how do they need to change to what am I learning? It's a totally different energy and allows for greater awareness to emerge. This is that whole concept of projected regret, where our mind is telling us that they're wrong and they need to change versus allowing ourselves to see that we actually need to be the change. And then step 4, I mean, that might be enough. And if not, if you want to take some action, then the fourth question is, what is the small action I can take to help me meet a need or set a boundary? This is about taking responsibility back for how it is that you feel and show up in the world. We can implement this process with curiosity, with all of our emotions. And if we start to get curious instead of fearful of what we feel, there's a whole new world of connection and peace and possibility that is available to us. And the cool thing is, even after the fact, if we can do this work, it allows us to re-experience a conversation or re-experience a relationship. It's like meeting someone for the very first time, even if you've been with them for 10 years. When we can take that pressure off others to be a certain way, we start to see their gifts or the gifts of the conversation and all that they are here to teach us. Well done. That's amazing work if you're able to work through that. And if not, that's okay too. If you have resistance coming up, again, be curious. Be curious without judgment. So this concludes Resentment 101. Have fun exploring this. And if you want to unpack something, feel free to give me a call or send me an email. I'd be happy to chat more with you about this. Okay, my friend, tomorrow is September 30th. It's the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation here in Canada. And so I want to spend a few minutes pausing here and to give you some support for this very important day. If you want to learn more about what this day is, I encourage you to go back to a year from now. We had an episode called Honoring the Children. And in that episode, I unpack more about what this day is and some things that you can do to honor it. But today, I want to invite you to take a moment to note what you have learned about the truth of our collective past and present, and what you have learned from the Indigenous teachings that you've been exposed to, including your own ancestral teachings. What have you been learning about your ancestry? I invite you to stand in gratitude for these beautiful souls who are today using their strength and resilience to stay rooted to their own ancestral teachings and allowing those teachings to support them in their journey of healing. And in doing so, helping all of us to heal. It's so, so powerful. No one has escaped the detrimental impacts of colonization. And we are in the journey now of unpacking and unbecoming all the ways of being that led to such a catastrophe. That's why this podcast exists, to help us all not repeat acts of genocide, not to be overcome by our fear of differences so that we close ourselves off to connection. Because when we do that, we cause tremendous harm to ourselves, to our neighbors, and to our planet. So as we step into this day, September 30th, dedicated to looking at the truth of those acts and finding our way to reconcile the harm caused, I want to thank you for being here and participating in this healing circle by being courageous enough to look within. That is where change begins. And I am celebrating you, my friend, for being on this journey with me and all those who are with us in this circle. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you next week when we are joined by the amazing Susan Burrell. She is an intuitive guide and spiritual healer and host of the podcast Empowering Chats. She takes this concept of asking for support to a whole new stratosphere. So if you're like me and need some guidance on asking for support, please come back and join us in Circle next week. Keep harvesting all that you have learned and become. Much love. Ciao. I'm now passing the talking piece to you. If you feel called to put your voice in the circle, please head to humconsulting.ca/podcast and share your story there. I cannot wait to hear what has come up for you as you have listened to what has been shared here today. I wish you love and joy beyond your wildest imagination. Thank you so much for being here in the Circle of Change. I also want to express my gratitude to the following peeps. Circle of Change is recorded on the ʷəŋən territories, and I am so grateful to live on this land. Our opening and closing music was created by the talented E-Roll Beats. You can find his creations at erollbeats.com. And special thanks to my coach, Mary Chan of Organized Sound Productions, for bringing this podcast to life. Until next time, ciao.